There are a lot of different types of retirement plans, and we cover them in other videos, but the goal of this video is to just give you an overview. So there's a bunch of categories. The first category is whether you are guaranteed a certain benefit, so you can think of that as a defined benefit plan, or whether you are going to contribute or your employer is going to contribute a certain amount, so you're defining the contribution, but the benefit might be variable depending on how much, not only how much you contribute, but how well those investments do. Now, defined benefit plans are less and less common, and they typically come in the form of pensions. Pensions are where your employer puts a certain amount of money while you are working. They put into a pension plan that you do not manage yourself, and then that pension plan is professionally managed, and hopefully they grow enough so that they can give you what they promised you. So these are employer funded, guarantees a specific payout in retirement based on salary and years of service. This is often typical of government workers. It might be certain unionized workers. My wife is a physician at the county medical center. She, in theory, has a pension. Now, it's very important to look at the health of these pension plans. Some of them haven't been growing enough or contributing enough to actually deliver on the promises, so that's become an issue over the last couple of decades. But if they're good for it, this is actually a very nice type of retirement to have because it is more predictable. But more typically these days, you have defined contribution plans. And this is where you and or your employer are putting a certain amount of money while you are working, investing that money, and then hopefully it has grown a good bit and it can be used once you have retired. Now, there's another subcategorization here of whether it's tax deferred or not tax deferred. Tax deferred means that you can put pre-tax money into that plan, and then you're going to get taxed on the other end when you take it out. Why is that beneficial? Well, your tax rate might be lower when you are retired because you're making less money then. Why would you want to do non-tax deferred then? Well, it might provide other forms of flexibility. We have a whole video on a Roth IRA. But as we can see, there are a bunch of different types of tax deferred defined contribution plans. The 401k is the most well known. It's sponsored by your employer. You can contribute a certain amount. Many employers will also match that amount. Now, you have things very similar to 401ks that might be for, say, if you work at a public school, or if you work in the government, or if you're in the military, federal employee, things like 403bs, 457s, thrift saving plans. And these all have different policies on what you can put in, what you can take out, who's contributing what, but they all kind of fill into the same category. And similar to that, you have heard of IRAs, investment retirement accounts, that also, other than the Roth IRA, tend to be tax deferred. Now, the traditional IRA, we have a whole video on that. You can contribute a certain amount, it gets tax deferred. Simple IRAs are ones for small businesses, so it can only be for organizations below a certain number of employees. I believe that number is 100 currently. An employer match is required. So the employer is actually going to definitely contribute. They have to contribute to this, but it's the same idea. They're contributing. It is tax-free for you when you also contribute, and you can take it out in the future when you are retired, but then you're going to pay taxes. SEP IRA is more for self-employed small businesses, and this is also employer funded. Now, last but not least, and we have a whole video on this, is Roth IRA, where you're not deferring your taxes, but it has other benefits in terms of tax-free withdrawals if you're only taking the amount of money that you have put in and not the gains on it.